Gear up, scooter fam. Today we're going to take a look at some seated scooters. Alright guys, how's it going? To start off, of course, there are 3 ways that you may choose to support the channel. Joining my Patreon, buying me a coffee, or picking up some merch. Thanks for your support. So, quick note before we get into the video. Segway is coming out with the next generation of electric scooters. So the only thing I know right now about the Segway, partnering with BMW with electric scooters on some level. And then I saw something the other day that said from Segway, it was an ad maybe or something like that, that said that they were coming out with their next generation of scooters. So 2025 might be an interesting year for electric scooters. Voro's planning 3 scooters. I'm hearing an update to the InMotion RS. There's some rumors about some NAMIs, although they have the sales channel to support that, considering Fluid's having their issues. And then Segway is doing this. So there's a few different things going on. It should be a good year for electric scooters this year. Several interesting developments in general, including a few new scooters coming out that should be pretty exciting stuff, if you ask me. Roadrunner is also rumored to release a 60-volt version of the RX-7. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, there's just so many different things going on right now in the scooter world. Max Fun is coming out with the Max Fun Pro Max. I'll see if I can get some more. It looks like a nice scooter, to be honest. The only thing I don't know is price. It's got all the upgrades. It reminds me a lot of the way they did Roadrunner. It's got the Magura brakes, PMT tires. But yeah, should be a pretty exciting year for electric scooters. Pretty eventful year, seeing how some things play out. So there'll be some ups and some downs, I'm sure. But yeah, it's just an exciting year for electric scooters. I think I'm excited to see what Segway comes out with. If they really have some groundbreaking scooters, that'll be interesting, considering that it's coming from Segway. eMove is also releasing a few different scooters, I'm told. So I just can't. I'm told from Voro. So we'll see how that goes for sure, and then see what else pops up along the way. Like I said, Roadrunner's planning another release. InMotion is supposed to release an updated version of the RS. Possibly. So those are some rumors floating around the rumor mill. Nami, like I said, is rumored to possibly have an upgraded version of the Burn E2 Max, or the next Burn E. Maybe it's a Burn E3 or whatever it is. Coming. There are rumors of even a dual motor Nami. A dual stem Nami of some sorts, maybe a dual stem Burn E, maybe something like that. Just incredibly interesting. The stem's one of the places that I think all the NAMIs kind of have a room for improvement on. Anyway, moving on to the video. So today I've decided to discuss a handful of seated scooters. They're not exactly the same. They're kind of unique in their own way, but they're 5 that I thought were interesting. They're not usually ones that I would cover on a normal basis. They really are 6 completely different scooters, in my opinion. There are none that are exactly like the other. So we'll start off with the eMove Roadrunner Pro from Voro Motors. This one is probably the best bang for the buck. If you want a decent scooter. I mean, if you want a seated scooter that goes 50 miles per hour, I think it'd be difficult to get one better than this for the price. Now, that being said, I would prefer if it was more like $2,500 or less. just what you get. I mean, you're gonna want to upgrade the battery. The range is not quite as good as stated on this one, from what I've seen. So doubling the battery would almost be necessary. You're probably gonna want to upgrade the shocks and so forth. And so by the time you start doing those things, the scooter gets pretty expensive, pretty pricey, and I'm just not sure I would want to put that much money into this particular scooter. But between $2,000 and $2,500 is where I see like the sweet spot for this scooter. I've never been too interested in seated scooters in general. I like the stand-up scooters, but people ask about them, and these come out all the time, and they are interesting. And if someone wanted to send me one, I would happily try it out and see what I thought about it. But I don't actively search for them myself. $2,700. I'll go over these specs one at a time, and I'll kind of compare them all, and then kind of give you my final thoughts on it. So the Roadrunner Pro from Voro Motors is $2,700. Top speed is 50 miles per hour. Stated range is 50 miles per hour. But it's much less in the real world from some of the videos that I've seen. It does have front and rear suspension. It's got a 60 volt 30 amp hour battery, which is pretty decent, and it has dual 2,000 watt motors. The max weight on it is 330 pounds, and it has a light water resistance rating. I didn't see an actual IP rating, so I didn't have that to offer. But they do say that it's safe in light rain, maybe some shallow puddles, something like that. So, just so you know, that's kind of what the eMove Roadrunner is. All right, next one on my list is a Jackrabbit. I told you these really couldn't be more different. So different prices, different complete scooters. This is a really interesting scooter / bike, e-bike, micro e-bike, what you want to call it. But considering it doesn't have pedals, they're generally known as seated scooters, just like the Roadrunner Pro. This is more of a bike looking like a bicycle that's electric, and the quality with the Jackrabbit is its portability. You can fly with it. It's regulated to take on the airplanes. They're approved for the battery and the bike itself, which is good. That can be a tough thing to do if you're trying to carry a scooter and a really large battery or something like that with you, which would be cool. But this you can throw in the airplane. However they put these, I don't know if you can take it as carry-on or not, but they do allow for flight. The batteries in the bikes, so that's the coolest part about the bike. Right now, this is a pretty good deal for $800. They're rated at about 20 miles per hour and roughly 10 miles of range per charge, but the batteries are small and removable, and additional ones only cost like $100 or so. So you can easily buy a couple of batteries and take with you and have 20 plus miles easily. They even have a double battery pack if you want to go that way, where you don't even have to switch it out. It just kind of plugs in and hangs over the sides. If you take a couple of those, you're talking about maybe 40 miles of range. So very, very, very interesting little scooter / e-bike, what have you. It's $800. It does have a top speed of 20 miles per hour, a stated range of 10 miles. It has no suspension. The throttle is a thumb throttle. It is a 36 volt, 4.2 amp hour battery. Once again, it's a really small battery, but it's removable. It costs just over $100 to replace it or to get additional ones. It's got a rear 300 watt motor, so it's not super speedy. It's just made to be very portable, fun thing to pretty much take anywhere you want to go. And so the max rider weight is 240 pounds, and it does have an IPX rating of IPX4, or rather an IP rating of IPX4. So that is the Jackrabbit OG. They have others. This one is discontinued, so they're selling selling out. This is why it says last chance. They're selling out. Once they're gone, they're gone. There's different colors you can choose from. I like the black. I think it's a cool scooter, bike, whatever you want to call it, and the fact that you can just kind of toss it aside and it's pretty small, pretty light. All right, next on our list is going to be the Suron Ultra B. See, I told you they're all different. So the Suron Ultra B is a beast of a scooter, motorbike, electric motorbike, whatever you want to call it. Um, Technically, all of these share similar characteristics in their two-wheeled bike-like with no pedals, and so you could, in my mind, you could call them all motorcycles. You could call them all seated scooters. I chose to look at the Suron Ultra B. There's a Suron Light B too, but this one, it's just a little nicer. You can get the other one for like 3-4 grand or something like that. But this one is the fast one, so I chose it. It's a little pricey, but it was the more interesting one to me. Although the Light B is probably awesome as well. And then there's a Storm, which is even pricier than this. So this is kind of the mid range Suron. Um, it's pretty cool. Like I says, it's known to be, you know, they're super popular. They're, like I said, they're pricey. They have a lot of torque. A lot of people ride wheelies on them and stuff like that, which make them fun because of the amount of torque that they do have. Um, this one gets 56 miles per hour top speed and stated 87 miles of maximum range, depending on how you ride it. Obviously, if you take it off road, those types of things can wear down the battery pretty quickly compared to just nice smooth ride. So it does have very nice dual suspension. Obviously, uses a twist throttle. The battery is a 74 volt, 55 amp hour. It has one mid motor, which is a 12,000 watt motor. It supports 220 pounds, and although it doesn't have an exact water rating, they're well known to handle very heavy water, including puddles and rain. Next up is maybe my favorite of the bunch, is this iKnight M1 PS. This is the black version. They're around $5,000. You can't save $400 right now for Xmas 400. Guess it's still going on. They still have it up here. So I did not test it. That may or may not be true, but seems like they're still running that. Worth a shot if you're interested. What I like about this scooter, and this is listed as a scooter, and obviously this could be an electric motorcycle. Looks very much like an electric motorcycle. No pedals, foot pegs, motorcycle. Everything's about it is motorcycle ish, other than the battery. So to me, this is very much an electric motorcycle, but they consider it an electric scooter. As stated here, electric. This is electric chopper, but it is under the scooter here. So, any case, just so you know, I didn't make that up. This is so it's considered a scooter, but it's very much an electric motorcycle, if you ask me. I really like this one. If I were going to get a seated scooter, this one is super interesting. I really like because it's an electric motorcycle. An electric motorcycle is a cool idea. An electric chopper is an even cooler idea. You're just riding around, doing your thing. It's got a Samsung battery, 4,000 watt rear motor. It's just, for the price, I really think it's actually a decent deal, to be honest. You get a pretty nice little machine. I've seen some reviews on them for the money. I mean, just hard to beat. Um, I don't I don't know if I'd leave it outside, although you probably can't help it from time to time without like a cover or something on it. Because even though it could probably handle some rain, uh, you know, I wouldn't want to just douse it with water all the time when it storms and so forth. So if you didn't have a garage to put it in, I would get a cover for it, put over it when you're not riding it. But and the battery is removable, so you can take it. You can take the battery in. Obviously, this thing would be pretty tough to manage if you couldn't take the battery in. My opinion. All right. So some of the specs on this one, it is right at $5,000. Top speed is 50 miles an hour. Range is stated at 74 top range. Uh, Depending on how you ride it, of course, that'll change. It is got dual suspension, of course, like a motorcycle would. Uh, it's a twist throttle, also very much like a motorcycle. It's got a 72 volt, 40 amp hour battery. Once again, it does have a rear 4,000 watt motor. It does support 440 pounds rider weight, so the heaviest so far at this time. And once again, it does have a IP rating of IPX5, which is decent, which is right in the middle, so it can handle a decent amount of rain, a little bit of puddles, not going to be a problem for it. Personally, my opinion on any of these types of things, if you do happen to just get it soaking wet, soon as I got where I was going home, likely I would get a towel and kind of wipe it down to make sure it just didn't stay super soaked. But anyway, just my own personal take on it. If it's still raining, you got to wait till it stops raining. All right. So yeah, I really like that. Really like it. If I were going to purchase a seated scooter, this is probably. I mean, it's a little more than I want to spend on something like this, but it's not bad for the money. I'll say that. I don't find it overpriced at $5,000. I think $5,000 is probably a good price for this scooter. $400 off is a good deal, in my opinion. For this, I wouldn't mind trying it out. If you guys want to send me one to review, I'll happily take a look at it for you. All right, next up is the Extreme Wheel K6 Max electric. They're calling it electric bike here, but it is listed under electric scooters, so it is somewhat considered a electric scooter. Looks more to me like an electric mini bike, something like that, or a very strange electric motorcycle. But interesting nonetheless, and I've actually been asked about this before on the channel. So if you're getting to watch this video, hope you enjoy this segment. In any case, it's very interesting. I will say that it was recently $29.99, which I thought was a really good deal for it. $32.99. It's okay. I like it at 3,000 even myself, to be honest. And I thought that was a decent deal. So, yeah, it compares nicely as far as specs. It's a beast scooter. Not the most, in my opinion, well designed scooter. It's a box with a battery and some wheels. It's very stable, just because of how it's built, as far as weight distribution and so forth. So it's really low. It's really heavy. It's got big tires. Big wide handlebars. So it has what it needs to function from a standpoint of rideability. So it rides very nice, but it doesn't look very nice. And the style of it just doesn't look anything special. It's a clunky looking box with wheels and handlebars, in my opinion. I like some things about it. I like the I like the brake, which I've seen on more and more different types of scooters like this, where I think is pretty interesting. Is the kind of open form hydraulic brake system where you can see the levels, but not only can you see the levels, since you're bleeding the brakes, kind of like the way I did on my video, all you're doing is just squeezing the brakes as you're making sure that there's fluid in that top reservoir. So here, all you have to do is just remove that top to allow the air, to come through, and then squeeze the brakes. And if the bubbles come out, so on the spot, anytime you want, you just bleed the brakes, and make sure your brakes are good and tight, and boom, you're on your way. You don't have to hook up anything. There's no kit. As long as it has fluid in there, you just open that airflow top so that it can come through, and then just start squeezing until the bubbles disappear and the brakes become super tight, and you're ready to go. So that's a cool feature. The display I've seen is kind of iffy. You can put some tint over it and make it up. Otherwise, it's really difficult to see, and so forth. So it's a super cool little scooter for the money. Like I said, at $29.99, I thought that was probably the perfect price point. They just jumped on price to $3,300, 30%, which is a decent little jump. But maybe that's a holiday thing or whatever. The point is, I thought it was better at $29.99. Like $24.99 would be a steal. $29.99 is probably where I think it should be. $32 is a slight bit on the expensive side for something like this. I'm sure it's fun, but yeah, it ends there. So the Extreme Wheel gets a top speed of 60 miles per hour. It has a stated range of 100 up to 120 miles. I think I heard somewhere between 60 and 120, depending on how you ride it. It does have front suspension, but no rear suspension. A twist throttle. It is 134 volt, 26 amp hour battery. So by far the largest battery, which is why sort of looks like it does, and so forth. This battery is not removable, so you have to charge it inside the scooter there. It has dual 3,500 watt motors for a very powerful little machine. Max weight of 440 pounds, like the last electric chopper, and then has a very light water resistance as well. Our least expensive of the bunch, which is the Koma Peak 1200 watt electric scooter. And I was just looking, like I said, for very different scooters to add to the mix. This is like none of the others. It's more of a and it looks like some of the e-bikes, some of the fat tire e-bikes, right? It has that certain style, that retro kind of fat tire mini bike looking scooter e-bike, So it looks like some e-bikes that I've sort of been interested in the past. This one is a pretty simple one compared to the others. The others have like dual batteries and higher speeds and so forth. This one here only goes about 20 miles per hour and gets a top range of 30 miles. So it's for $500, right? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about anything crazy. So for $500, you can go top speed of 20 miles per hour for around 30 miles of range, which is iffy, depending on how you ride a scooter. But to be honest, for something like this, $500 little fun little, doesn't have pedals, it's just foot pegs. Just get on and ride. It's got a little area right here that you can put things in as an extra capacity, have a little carrying capacity there. So for the money, I think it's a pretty cool little scooter. Koma's fairly well known. They're not a big brand. I found them mostly on Amazon, which is where I find this for sale. But they're fairly well known, fairly reputable in the scooter world. They have other stand-up scooters as well, but they're on the inexpensive side, kind of like Highboy or Hover One, so forth. So, but for the money, I thought this one was worth throwing in. So once again, it gets about 20 miles of top speed. A stated range of about 30 miles. No suspension. It's a pretty tough on suspension. And the front kind of looks like it has forks, but they don't. It has a front suspension, but that's not suspension. That's a hard fork. And the twist throttle also. And the battery is a 48 volt, 10.4 amp hour battery. And has one rear 750 watt motor. Once again, not really bad for the price. That's pretty good for $540, my opinion. It does have a max rider weight of 300 pounds, and it does not have an IP water rating at all. Although they show it here in a little bit of water over the picture, so possibly it can handle some really light rain or light small puddles, and I would still wipe it down pretty good in case, but I wouldn't intentionally take it out in any kind of wet conditions. All right, so what do I think about all of them? Once again, these are 6 very different scooters for sure. They each have their own sort of qualities, things that I like about them, things that they're just okay. I do believe my favorite is the electric chopper. That's probably my favorite. It is over $4,000 though, so it does make it kind of a tough sell. It's a 72 volt 40 amp hour battery, and does pretty well. I think for what it is, for the price, I $5,000 is great. Less than that is definitely a deal for that scooter, and really like it. It's probably my favorite. My second favorite is probably this one here, the Roadrunner Pro. It's still a decent scooter for the money. Like I said, I would prefer less than $2,500, just specifically because you've got some upgrades to do. If this already came with everything you needed, especially the range, especially the bigger battery, $2,700 plus tax is what you're going to pay. $3,000 for the scooter before you ever do any upgrades. It's a lot. It's a bit high, but I do like the scooter, and it's only a few $100s out of range for me. My next pick would probably be the Jackrabbit. I like the Jackrabbit for the price, especially $800 right now for something so simple. I mean, you're not giving up your kidney to get a Jackrabbit, certainly not this one. $800, you get 10 miles of range, 20 miles per hour on a bike you can pretty much take anywhere. Throw it in your car, take it on a plane with you. Easily go anywhere you want to go with it. Go to another country, and just ride around. Just get off the plane instead of having to worry about getting a taxi or something like that. You just jump on and go where you want to go. Take a few extra little battery packs with you, and you're set out there doing your thing. So I really like that scooter for that reason. Next on my list would probably be, I have a hard time rationalizing spending too much money on some of these scooters. So I'll say that I like the Koma next on my list. It's just a really cheap, fun little scooter. Once you get 20 miles an hour, same as the Jackrabbit, but you get a bit more range and you get a bit more hefty scooter. Something that's not a little bike. If you want something that's more like a bicycle, that's great. But you're gonna pay a little bit extra for that and get less range. The Koma D3 is a nice basic little scooter that's going to get you a decent amount of range. It also supports 300 pounds, which is really good for a $500 scooter, to be honest. Yeah, I like it for what it is for $540. If it were cheaper than that, which I thought it was on sale for a while through the holidays, would have been a definite deal to get a pickup. Right now, it's adequately priced, around $500. I'd like it to see around more like at $500, not $499. Or I would like to see it at $499, not $540. And so, yeah, but I think that is my next favorite. I would pay 540 just because it's barely over. If I really was interested, but personally, I see it right at about $500, and that's the perfect price for me for that scooter. Next, it's pretty close. Considering that Suron also has a light B that's a little less, I just don't know. I don't think it's worth $6,700 for me. I probably would go with the K6 Max for 3,300. 29.99 is a better deal. It might have moved up in my list had it stayed at 29.99, but 3,300 is a tad bit overpriced for me for it just being what it is. You can't. It's very difficult to lock up. You can't turn it off. It's either off or on. So it's just it's a unique little thing. And so if you wanted to throw $3,000 at a toy like that, knock yourself out. But yeah, I don't. It's a tough sell for me. And then finally, the Ciron Ultra B, although it's a super cool little scooter, electric motorbike, electric dirt bike, what have you, and it really is. I mean, I just have to have some unsuspected extra money just laying around that I just didn't have anything to do with before I'd be willing to spend something like that on the Ultra B, and the it's probably worth $6,000+ for sure. Maybe 6,500, maybe 6,700. It's tough. It only supports a 220-pound rider weight, so that depends on your weight, personal weight. But aside from that, I mean, 60 just like I said, it's an investment. So that's something you're going to have to be really want to be committed to before buying something like that. And there are a lot of Ciron owners that are. So it's last on my list, mainly just because of the price. You get a decent speed, but there are less expensive scooters such as the eMove Roadrunner Pro that can go 50 miles an hour for much less money, for $4,000 less. Getting into that, the K6 Max can go 60 miles an hour, although much less attractively, and just a bit clunky. I mean, supposedly it rides smooth and it's nimble and so forth and super stable, but it's a box with wheels and a low center of gravity and very heavy. So, like I said, from a engineering standpoint, as far as performance and handling and so forth, it's pretty good. But that's all you get. Anyway, yeah, those are my picks. If you enjoyed this content and you found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Consider joining my Patreon, buy me a coffee, or picking up some merch. Thanks, and happy riding.